Well, hi everybody and welcome to another vlog. We've had a question about inverters. Now, if you don't know what an inverter is, what it does, it takes your 12 volt leisure battery power and converts it to 230 volt standard AC. So there are two types of inverter. Modified sine wave and pure sine wave. Pure sine wave gives you much cleaner electricity and is more suitable for charging up things like sensitive electronics like laptops, mobile phones and that sort of stuff, and is really recommended these days. So pure sine wave is the way to go. They're not cheap, and indeed if you get a cheap pure sine wave inverter, probably isn't pure sine wave. But the inverter that we bought a little while ago was recommended by the MMM magazine article. The guy in there had written an article testing out different inverters. I'd been doing research at almost the same time, and I settled on buying the NDS 1500 smart inverter from Road Pro, and lo and behold, that's the one the MMM magazine was recommending. So I was really happy that my choice had come out the same as theirs. So really great. The connecting up an inverter to your batteries is really simple. You don't need to worry too much because there's just two cables involved, the red cable and the black cable, or positive and negative. People call them different things, the plus and the return, the positive and the return, or the negative, but the red cable gets attached to the plus terminal on your battery if you have one battery, and the black cable gets connected to the minus terminal or the negative terminal on your battery. If you have more than one battery, and you have two batteries, you need to connect those in parallel. So connecting both batteries together by connecting the positive terminal on battery 1 to the positive terminal on battery 2 with an at least 25 square millimeter cable, and connecting the negative terminal on battery 1 to the negative terminal on battery 2. So that makes them look like a single battery of twice the capacity at the same voltage. So that's a really important thing to note. Don't connect your batteries up in series like positive to negative, because that will double the voltage, and that won't be good for any 12 volt equipment. So it will be giving out 24 volts. So really do your research on how to connect the batteries up, but in parallel keep the voltage the same, pos to pos, neg to neg, and you're good to go. When you have two batteries, you will connect your red cable, your positive cable, to the positive of battery 1, and your negative cable to the negative of battery 2. So that, because that battery sort of essentially is a single battery, you're treating the positive on one as the only positive and the negative on the second battery is the only negative, and that will draw the power equally out of both batteries to your inverter. What you do need to know is that in your positive line to the inverter you will need a fuse, an inline fuse, and depending on what inverter you're using will sort of govern the type of fuse or the ampage of fuse that you use. It's important to reference back to the manufacturer. I think I've got a 200 amp fuse in line between the battery and my inverter, because that's what's recommended. Your inverter might be entirely different. It might be a 170 amp fuse or a 150 or a 220. It could be anything. So refer back to the manufacturer of your inverter to find out what type of fuse or what ampage of fuse you will need to fit. It's really simple to do. Once you've connected all those up, follow the instructions in the manufacturer's installation guide. Earthing where needed. Sometimes some inverters need a separate earth from the chassis of the inverter to the chassis of your vehicle, just to stop any extraneous current going anywhere. It will just earth out. So make sure that you do that. Once you've got that in place, once you've connected it up, you've then got 230 volt power coming out of your inverter. Now you need to be careful that you've got enough battery amp hours to cope with the stuff that you're using. Now we're pretty careful about what we use, although we are almost voracious users of electricity. We use the induction hob to boil kettles and cook dinners and stuff like that. But we have 3 batteries all connected in parallel, 3 100 amp hour batteries give us 300 amp hours, which is an effective total 150 amp hours, so at a 50% depth of discharge. So we're always looking to sort of improve on how much power we've got in the battery bank, adding more batteries, or going, as we are going to pretty soon, moving to lithium, much more effective, much more usable power. Lead acid, which we've got on board at the moment, you can discharge to 50%, so you can use half the amp hours that they're rated at without really damaging them. So we've got 300 amp hours on board, so we can use 150 amp hours, which means that's 150 amp hours at 12 volts, and that's different. So if you've got, if we're running the induction hob at 200 watts, that is almost 17 amps at 12 volts. So we can run the induction hob on 200 watts for an hour and it will use 17 amps. If we turn it up to 400, it will use 34 amps. If we turn it up to 800, it will use 70 odd, probably a bit more, 75 amps, plus a little bit of ampage to run the inverter itself. So if we were running the induction hob at maybe 800 watts for an hour, because you might do a bit of slow cooking, whatever you're doing, you could easily be using maybe 80, 90 amp hours out of your 150 that we have allowance, which is a lot. It's depleting your batteries over an hour quite a lot. So you need to be aware of how much you're using, what you're using. But we, because of the research I've been doing and the amount of learning that goes on over the time that we have the batteries and the inverter going, I'm sort of getting to know what we can use, what we can't use, and how to charge the batteries back up, and when we can use the inverter, when we can't. If the inverter's just not able to be used, we'll cook on gas, because we have the gas on board as well, so that allows us the flexibility. But really simple. If you get an inverter, get one big enough for the stuff that you're going to use, and we've got a 1500 watt because we know we had an 800 watt microwave that we might want to use sometimes, and the 1500 watt inverter will peak for a few seconds at double that, 3000 watts, and I know the microwave will peak at about 2000 watts from its 800 watt level as a normal maximum power. You get these sort of start-up wattages that happen, so you need to be aware of that. It can all get a bit complex, but if you've got any questions about what inverter you should get, the knowledge that I've accumulated over the last year, I'm happy to share it if you have some specific questions. It's a huge subject, and not one that I can make a video about that would make sense in a few minutes. But anyway, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. I'm very happy to answer them, and I'm very happy to make videos to show you how all the things work. One other bit somebody was asking is what actually you use on the inverter. So we've got laptop charger which charges up my MacBook Pro. We have the vacuum cleaner, which is the Dyson D6 car and boat model, so that needs 230 volt charging. And we've got the induction hob, and we've got other bits and pieces that we occasionally plug in that need that 230 volt power to charge them up. So it's not a lot. The big question that lots of people ask is, can I use a hairdryer? Well, yeah, you can. And if you get one of the big professional 3000 watt hairdryers, guess what? You know, you're going to plug that in, turn it up to full power. The inverter's not going to work, and you know, because the inverter that we've got is 1500 watts. But if you've got like a 1 kilowatt hairdryer or lower powered, it'll take a bit longer to dry your hair, but you know, it can work. It can work. So you need to adjust how you use these things, and based on the amount of solar power you've got to recharge your batteries. Top tip I think is better to use all of your electric stuff early in the day, because then your solar panels have a better chance of recharging your batteries through the day. So we're happy to use the induction hob for cooking in the morning, less comfortable with cooking meals at night. Midday, you know, that's fine because it's got the whole afternoon to recharge on the solar. So, you know, choose your times, make sure you know what battery power you've got and how much you've got left to use, because you don't want to be like leaving your batteries discharged for too long overnight. It's okay to do that on occasion, but you know, you need to be aware of it. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this little ramble, please give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to keep on following our journey as we travel around the UK and Europe living full time in our motorhome. Take care. I'm going to see you again next time. Bye bye for now.